Hello and welcome to the Formula Vee Gen2 race setup video. Since the last video where you saw how the sausage is made, it's been through a number of different circuits, different conditions, and through different drivers now. It's only slightly changed, but it's a more rounded setup now. You should be able to take it almost anywhere and be quite comfortable with it. Bear in mind it's a race setup, so it's been geared around a 30-minute race. It's not a TT setup. You can get them from the TT section. There's many to choose from, but this is for a good, consistent, clean, sensible driving style that you can sustain for 30 minutes, not chucking it around, trying to get one decent lap out of 100. You're looking to string together 30 decent laps, you know. So this is the kind of setup that this is for. So in this video coming up, we're going to go through my assessment of the default setup. Very, very brief, just very quick run through that. The benefits of this new setup that we found, how and why we came to this setup, then the key items that you would change just to make it more tailored to you as and when you need to. We'll go through the verifications that we made so you can get a better understanding of the work behind the scenes of what's happened to make it that more rounded setup. And then we'll finally get into what's coming up after this car in the next video. So, the default setup assessment. I found personally that the default setup was not particularly user friendly. I found it quite unstable in pretty much every single phase of the corner, including the transitions of those phases as well. I didn't really feel it was particularly suitable for a momentum style racing like this class of car belongs to, and I didn't really feel that it was very suitable for a beginner class car. However, that's not to say that it's not going to be fast. I think in the right hands and with the right aptitude, I think it could be fast. If you are very good with pedals, it would suit you down to the ground. But for a momentum class, for me, you need to drive the car more on the steering and less on the pedals because it involves clean driving lines, and it just seems to carry more speed in my experience of racing. So that's where I felt with the default setup, and that's why I wanted to then go into the further step of then developing my own. And thankfully the car is very responsive to setup changes and allowed me to do exactly that. Even though it's only got a few minor setup adjustments available to it, there was more than enough there to get the car where we needed it. So really, really good job by Reiza on that front. The new setup I found gave better braking stability. It had an improved stability in the mid-corner, which then also allowed me to have a better feel for where the traction was as well. So I found it allowed me to get out of the corners a bit more reliably as well. Generally, just more user-friendly with this new setup, and I found it was transferable from circuit to circuit as well, and also between different drivers. So let's get into the setup. Let's have a little look at it, and we'll see what we did to get there. So, tyres, brakes and chassis, we reduced the tyre pressures, front and rear. The rear was reduced more than the front, and that gave us a more stable balance. The rear has been reduced down to the minimum it can be, and the fronts are just a little bit higher than that. The brake pressure was reduced, but that's a personal taste thing, really. That will vary according to what you want to get out of it. The brake bias was moved forwards quite a long way, and that really helped stabilise the car on the brakes and gave me a much better feel for where the locking point was on the inside front wheel. In the suspension, not a lot you can change here, but we reduced the ride height significantly. and we also increased the steering lock a little bit because that allowed us to steer the car more. But as we made the car more stable at the rear, we found we needed to drive the car by the steering more than the pedals, so we needed a bit more steering lock just to ease that through. We didn't increase it by very much, but we had to increase it just a little bit. So, I should say as well, so the rear ride height, we did try it as low as 24 millimeters. But when Marc drove it, he found that when he took it to the Cavello short circuit, there's a really lovely chicane, left-right chicane, where it's got quite a big drop and a big compression in the middle of the chicane as you're flicking into the right. And he found that at 24 millimeters, the rear just got a little bit unstable. You couldn't hear it bottom out, but it felt like it had bottomed out. So he tried raising it just by 2 millimeters further to 26, and he said it sorted it right out. I went back there, gave it a go, and verified it also behaved the same at 24, and that the 26 fixed it. So that's why it settled at 26, which is really, really nice. In the drivetrain, there isn't really very much you can do. You can change the ratios, but only in such a way where you lose a gear, either top or bottom end. And the fuel map you're not going to change really, and the fuel is there to get you about 30 minutes runtime. I will give you a full page by page at the end of the video with a timestamp in the description if you need it. So they're the changes. It doesn't really, I mean, there's not a lot to go through there really. It's all very basic stuff. But if you drive it and it's not quite to your liking, the things I would change are front tire pressures. If you want to smooth the front end out a little bit, I'd go up just a little bit. If you want to have a slightly more aggressive front end, you could also reduce them a little bit. The rear tire pressures, I'd probably leave as they are, to be honest. They don't seem to need changing in any conditions that I've seen so far. The brake pressure will be, as I say, it'll be done to your taste. And I tune the brake pressure according to the modulation I need to feel where that locking point is on the inside wheels. The brake bias, if you want to make it more stable on the entry to the corner, go up. If you want to make it a bit more aggressive, you can go towards the rear a little bit. Again, not a huge amount, 2-3% or so should see you notice quite a significant difference either way. In the suspension, so the rear ride height, we tried it at 24. On a smooth circuit, would probably be okay. To be completely honest, it probably would be okay on a smooth circuit, and you would gain a bit of extra rear end stability with it a little bit lower. But do be mindful that if you run it lower, you're at risk of bottoming out potentially, or it not sitting in the right geometries, or whatever the reason is, it can be unstable on a bumpy circuit at 24. So 26 is a nice, good, rounded number. If you want it a bit more aggressive, then you can run it a bit higher, and then that'll just put a bit more weight on the front, a bit less on the rear, and it'll just make it a bit more on the rear end a little bit, you know. And if you want it a bit more aggressive, you can go up on the steering lock, or you can go down on the steering lock to make it a bit less aggressive. All those things are all there to make it so you can tune it. And the car, as I said earlier, the car is really responsive to setup changes. It's absolutely brilliant in that respect. And absolute hats off to Reiza for that, because they have done a fantastic job. So quickly into the verifications then. So what did we do to verify? So when we first started, it was me taking the car to the Grapple circuit, and I did the base work. I sent that setup to Marc Collins and Peter Stefani, and they both ran it. Marc took it to the Cavello short circuit. He then noticed the rear end bottoming out, so we then tweaked it a little bit here or there. We raised the rear ride height a little bit and settled on 26. Then took it to Cascavel personally, myself, and found that the front end was really aggressive. So added in a bit more front tire pressure, Peter joined me for that test. We did a multiplayer test online, and we worked through things together. We tried a number of different things, but settled on pretty much what we had, plus a little bit of extra front tyre pressure. He then started with his own setup and migrated his way towards mine and settled on that. And he noted that the steering lock change was really quite powerful. It really helped him feel that front end bite a lot more than when it was at a lower setting. So just something to bear in mind as well. If you're struggling to feel the front end and what it's doing, if it's not communicating to you very well, you could try just increasing the steering lock a little bit, and that might just help communicate what's happening a bit better to you. And then from there, once that setup was sort of fairly settled in, we were all on the same setup. Then I sent that one back over to Marc again, and he carried on a little bit further, just tried a few things and confirmed that that was a good rounded setup, and he was happy with that and was happier with that setup compared to the D-Volt setup as well, as was Peter. So that was really, really great. Marc took it to Sebring, to the club circuit there. I took it to Alton Park, as did Marc as well. It's probably easier if I just say the car. So the setup has been to Grapor, Cascavel, Velocita, Cavello Short, Sebring Club, Alton Park Island. That's the tracks it's been to. It's a really good mix of corners with different types of curbing as well. Some really aggressive curbs at the Cavello short circuit where you're going between the walls. Likewise, at Alton Park Island, you've got some really aggressive curbs there as well. So it's had a number of things thrown at it to make it what it is, and it seems to be working really, really well. I've got to say a big thank you to both Marc and Peter for their help. Without their verifications, you know, I may have reached the same conclusions, but I wouldn't have reached them anywhere near as quickly or as confidently. So a huge thank you to both of them, because they both gave back really, really good feedback, and it helped it become the rounded setup that it is. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. Let me know what you think in the comments. That'd be really great. If you try it, let me know what you think. Yeah, I would appreciate that sort of feedback. So that's this car. What's next? Next up, we've got a very different sort of car. Next up, we're going to go for the Alpine GT4 car. I'm going to go through that, run it through its paces. However long it takes, I don't know. It will take as long as it takes. I want to make sure that these videos that come out are accurate, sensible, and they've been well considered and they're not rushed in any way, shape or form. So I'm going to drive the Alpine, I'm going to get on with it, I'm going to enjoy it, I'm going to learn it, and then we'll develop the setup from there. If it needs to be developed at all, the default might be absolutely perfectly fine, but we'll find out. If you've got any cars you want to see in the series, feel free to leave a comment as well with it. We will collate them, we'll work out which ones are the most demanded, and then we'll look to implement them as soon as we can. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you for watching, thank you for supporting. I'll leave you with the 3-page setup, and until the next time with the Alpine GT4, we'll see you later.